Hey everyone, Mario again, coming at you another review, and the day I record and upload this review, I'd like to wish you all a happy 4th of July, because it's Independence Day as I record this, which is why I thought it'd be fitting to review the 1996 film, Independence Day. Now, this is actually a film I've been meaning to review on this day for the last couple of years, just every time I've been busy or other reviews have gotten in the way. I know I was going to try to do it last year, but I ran out of time, and I figured, I don't got any reviews I plan on uploading today. Why don't I do it today? Well, it's been a couple years since I've seen the film, but since Encore, which we just recently got again, is showing it all day starting last night, I decided, there'd be a good chance to watch it. I watched most of it last night. I wasn't paying attention in the first part of it a lot other than listening, because I was doing some stuff on the computer. And then this morning when I woke up, I waited for a new showing to start, watched the ending of the previous showing, then watched the beginning of that showing so I could get that part of my mind. And actually that showing is still playing. It's in the last act. I just didn't get around to it. I was just listening to the film and doing some other stuff on the computer. Well, first of all, I have to say this could be considered a childhood favorite, but I'm not going to list it under that, considering I only watched it once or twice as a kid. So I don't know if I could list it as that, but anyway, it's a film I did enjoy as a kid, and I did have the pleasure of seeing this film on the big screen with my grandmother. I enjoyed it then. I didn't see it for a while. Then I started watching it again in the early to mid-2000s. I've loved it. It's been a couple years since I've seen it, and I still love it now. It has a 6.9 on IMDb, has a 75 with the audience and Rotten Tomatoes, and a 60 with the critics. This is the consensus. The plot is thin, and so is character development, but as a thrilling, spectacle-filled summer movie, Independence Day delivers. I agree with that to a point. The plot is nothing original. It is sort of thin, but it's an alien invasion film, so it doesn't have to be uber deep. It's only a bonus if it is. And the characters are the type of characters you've seen in dozens of films, and there's only moderate character development. But I think for a film like this, you don't need uber character development, especially considering this is a summer blockbuster film. Now, I would prefer character development, a lot of it, but just with how the film is, you look at it, from a writing and an audience standpoint, it doesn't really need a lot. It's aliens invade, humanity has to come together to stop them. We have a few main characters, and they do develop a little bit over the course of the film, and it's mostly because of the situations around them, but they didn't really need to develop, like go from A, B, C, D, E. They only have to go from A to B or from B to C. They don't have to go a long way, and it goes with the film. Now, if this film had a smaller budget, because it was made on $75 million in mid-90s money, which would probably be like 150 now, give or take. If the budget was lower, or you had actors that weren't as skilled, it probably would have come off as a B movie, which this seems to be like a love letter to some of the B movies from the 50s, or even some of the bigger budget films from the 50s that dealt with this topic. But because of the actors and the scale with the budget, it's in the A movie thing, but you can tell it's definitely a love letter to the B movies, and it's a very fun film. Now, the plot I don't really need to go into a lot. Aliens invade. At first, humanity is all like, are they here to help us? Well, as time goes on, we see they're not. And one character in particular, Jeff Goldblum's character, David Levinson, who's an MIT-educated computer expert, he discovers something in the code that the aliens are using with the satellite dishes and sees that they actually are there to attack. He goes to try to warn the president, played by Bill Pullman, which he does a great job playing the president. And the president character in this film, President Whitmore, is a former Persian Gulf fighter pilot, which, of course, you can tell in the ending what he's probably going to do, which I'm not going to spoil, but he does a good job of it. But he doesn't he only warns them with enough time to get out of the White House before it's blown up, which, even though that's a very great special effect, I think you can kind of pinpoint today's editing of trailers, at least later ones, giving away money shots to this film, because it gave away that money shot. Granted, it probably put some butts in the seats, but think of it. If you had when you were watching this film for the first time, and you did not know that that shot was coming up, don't you think it would have been a little bit more impactful? That's the one thing I really hate about these trailers, is that they give away money shots. Like X-Men First Class gives away the money shot. Days of Future Past gives away the money shot. The last Batman film gives away the money shot. And this film gives away the money shot. I don't know if the Star Wars trailer gave away the money shot, but that was years ago. But it's just, you don't give away the important stuff like that. It loses its impact. Like with Expendables, it would have been a lot more impactful if we didn't know Arnold had a cameo in it. If they had also been able to keep it hush-hush beforehand, since he was still governor of my state at the time. But still, it would have been a little bit more impactful. It's like, oh, it's Arnold! Especially with how that he's introduced in the scene. But anyway, I'm getting a little off topic. Now, as the days come closer to July 4th, because it takes place over 4th of July weekend, the aliens destroy more and more stuff. And of course, you know, at first the government, especially in the United is going to send in fighter pilots, which one of them is played by Will Smith, Captain Stephen Hiller. He's the only one of his squadron to survive, and he manages to capture an alien after causing it to crash, and he takes it to Area 51, and by that point all the main characters are there. We got the president, Jeff Goldblum's character's there, his father's there, his ex-wife is there, and they eventually have to plan what to do. And of course, you know, in the end, humanity's going to win out. I'm not going to spoil it, but if you know anything about sci-fi history with alien stuff, specifically H.G. Wells, you'll kind of guess what the ending is going to be a tribute to, which it is a little far-fetched considering the technology gap, but I could see it being realistic. I mean, I know I'm going to give it away with this. It involves a computer virus. I know, minor spoiler, but I have to talk about it to address this. If we can still get computer viruses now, I have a feeling advanced technology will still get viruses, and they'll probably be more susceptible to ones that they've never seen. And since we've seen the film mostly from the human side, who knows what type of viruses, if any, in a long time the aliens have had to deal with. Maybe they don't even have any programs to destroy viruses like that. Maybe they have them, but this one went through it because it's an unfamiliar one, so it didn't get flagged up before it could take over. And especially since Jeff Goldblum's character David was using a piece of alien technology to experiment with, granted a slightly older one, but it looks like a similar model, he could have theoretically been able to do it, especially since he was from MIT. I mean, a lot. They usually have a lot of smart characters like this come from MIT. If I remember correctly, in the Marvel universe, Iron Man went to MIT, and look at that. I know not everyone in real life would be able to do that, but it's science fiction, so you got to give it a little bit of leeway and allow for suspension of disbelief. And with how the character David words it all and pulls it all off, I think it works. Though it's one of those things that some people will like a little bit like that. Doesn't bother me, and it's never bothered me. Like more recent years, I noticed that some people might have a problem with it, but it just doesn't bother me, and I think it's a nice little homage to Wells. Now, the acting, I think, is pretty good. Smith did a great job as Captain Stephen Hiller. If I remember correctly, I think this is the film that was his breakout role film-wise, because I know he had done a film before this called 6 Degrees of Separation, which I still need to see. And of course, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, that was his real breakout role, but for films, this was it. At least to show that he could be in marketable films, and I think dramatic-wise, Ali would be that, because if I remember right, he got an Oscar nomination for that, which, based on what I've seen, he definitely deserves, because he's definitely honed his craft. Bill Pullman did a great job as Whitmore. I don't know what it is. Just some things I've heard from a couple of my friends the last couple of years, that some people are saying the speech he makes near the end of the film is cheesy. I don't know what definition of cheesy they're using, but that speech does not come off as cheesy to me. It's a battle speech. Before a battle, you're going to have to rally the troops, and with how they were before the battle started, before he gave that speech, they needed a rally the troops speech. A lot of great leaders and a lot of great military commanders have done that. And especially since you're going against aliens, I think a speech is necessary. And I like the wording of it, especially considering the day that it happens on, July 4th in the film. And he brings up, of course, the day and what it used to mean, and saying what it would mean from now on. And I like it. And of course it ends with, "Today we celebrate our Independence Day," which that's a great way to end the speech. Jeff Goldblum, still very great as David. His acting seems a little similar to how he did Malcolm in Jurassic Park, at least the first one, but this character seems a little socially awkward, so I think it works a little bit more than it did with Malcolm, but I think he did a good job as Malcolm. Mary McDonnell plays the First Lady. She's good at what she has to do. Judd Hirsch plays David's father, and I thought he did a good job for what he had to do. I mean, he has a good back and forth with his son, and there's a lot of funny little dialogue moments. Robert Loggia, it's Loggia. I'm guessing it's Loggia. I'm guessing as the general character. I thought he did a good job. Granted, his character comes off as a type of military character we've seen in a bunch of films. You know, the high-strung military character. But apparently he based his characterization on Patton, and I'm guessing that this stereotype kind of comes from how George C. Scott played Patton, and maybe before that, and then just continued on. But it doesn't bother me, but you could say this is a character we've seen in a dozen movies of this, and it's one we continue to see, so it's become sort of stock. But I still think he did a good job as it, and he plays off as being likable, especially since he does have a little bit of camaraderie with the president. Because obviously the president was in the military beforehand. Granted, the general probably outranked him then, but now they still have a little bit of friend thing. Randy Quaid, I thought he did a good job as the alcoholic crop duster character Russell Cass. I'm guessing it's Casse. Or maybe the S's are silent. I don't remember the pronunciation of the last name. I just remember his name is Russell. Which his character is interesting because he's an alcoholic, crop-dusting Vietnam veteran who claims to have been abducted by aliens 10 years before. So you know his character is going to be the butt of some jokes before the aliens invade, and there is some comic relief there. And of course he has a great moment near the end of the film where he basically helps save the human race. I'm not going to spoil it all, but I know that originally it was done differently, but I like the way that they changed it because it adds a little bit more of a little dramatic moment there than, you know, what it was going to be before. And of course he has one of my favorite lines in the movie. "In the words of my generation, up yours!" Of course, Will Smith has two of my favorite lines in the whole movie. "Welcome to Earth. I tell you something. Now that's what I call a close encounter." Both back to back, and then his whole little thing about the fat lady singing. James Rebhorn plays the Secretary of Defense, which you want to smack him a couple times during the movie, and when he gets fired later, you're like, good. Adam Baldwin is in the movie as Major Mitchell, who is the commander of Area 51. I think he does good for what he has to do. Brent Spinner plays Dr. Brakish Okun, which is the scientist in charge of Area 51. He does an okay job. It looks like he's killed in the film, but according to Wikipedia, Devlin is thinking of maybe bringing the character back for a sequel, which I guess I have to address that in a little bit. Vivica Fox plays Jasmine, who is Will Smith's love interest. They have a little bit of chemistry, and you can believe them as a pair, especially later when they get married. The actors that play Russell's kids, James Duval, Lisa Jacob, and Ross Bagley, they do a good job for what they have to do. They don't have a lot of characterization, except maybe for the character of Miguel. It's more with them dealing with their father a little bit, which would you see their father like, okay. I'm looking to see. Harry Connick Jr. plays another military captain who is Steve's best friend. You believe them as friends with how they go, and they have a little funny moment when they see something involving a ring, which I'm not going to spoil, but let's just say it involves Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but it's a very brief moment. And the alien vocal effects are done by the one and only Frank Welker, which, when you need someone to do vocal effects, Frank Welker is your guy. Now, as for the sequel, I don't really think we need a sequel to this, to be honest, but we're getting one. But it makes me wonder how. Is it going to be like another spaceship of these same aliens, or is it going to be a different alien race coming to the planet for the same reason? Are they going to expand on the motivations of the aliens? If they do that, it'd be nice to see Earth at least attempting to copy some of their technology, because we've seen it in other films like Transformers. We copy some of it from the Decepticons, so it'd be interesting to see in this one, in a sequel, them humans attempting that. The score is done by David Arnold, which I do like. It has a very patriotic feel to it, which, given the title of the film and the ending of the film, it fits. And if anything, this film does have a little bit of a message, and that is that no matter what our differences are, whether it be different skin colors, different religions, different political groups. I can go on and on with differences. We're all human, and no matter what, we have to band together. Which, of course, that also makes me think of George Carlin's comedy thing, that it always seems to happen during a disaster. Which is kind of sad. It's good, but at the same time it's sad that it takes a disaster to get us to help one another when it should just be a given. But given the fact that, at least now, there's 7 billion people on the planet, it's a little bit harder. Now, I don't know how many there were at the time of the film, but makes me wonder, which also brings up something about the film, makes me wonder how many people the aliens managed to kill before they were defeated. Like, what, only a couple billion or something? It'd be a lot, but that's aliens for you. Now, my rating for Independence Day, I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Not a perfect film, like I said before. We've seen characters like this before. We've seen movies like this before. But I'd say it's a very entertaining film. The $75 million was well spent. Definitely deserved to make the $800 million it got. I'm guessing that's all money from then to now. The actors did a good job. This is probably my favorite of Roland Emmerich's films. Because looking at his film, it's close between this and Universal Soldier. Because I haven't seen his pre-Universal Soldier films. You know, Joey, Hollywood Monster. Stargate I haven't seen in a while, but I remember liking it. Godzilla, it's on the border of guilty pleasure and like. The Patriot I did enjoy, but I haven't seen it in a while. White House Down I still haven't seen. And I haven't seen his other films from the 2000s, Day After Tomorrow. I've seen bits and pieces of it though. 10,000 BC, but that's, which I think some of you are going, what? That seems like a film to be right up your alley. I know. 2012 still haven't seen. And Anonymous I haven't seen, which given that I'm a Shakespeare fan, you would think you would just want to smack me for that, but just haven't gotten around to seeing it. If there's any big problem, it's maybe that a couple of the characters, you know, are too stock, but it's not. It's only like a nitpick, and that's doesn't hurt the film a lot. It's just like it's kind of hard considering the running length of the film, and I guess kind of hard to word this. I guess the scale of it, that every character is going to get a lot of it, but and even Shakespeare did that, so I can't really complain a lot. I mean, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, need I say more? Once again, 4 out of 5. If you haven't seen this film, get it or I'll get the aliens.